Barbecue. Welcome, everyone, to Boost, Booze, and Barbecue. This is Andy.
And this is Jojo.
Jojo, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Andy, how are you?
Doing fantastic. We just went past the 4th of July. And I love that holiday.
Me too. It's my favorite.
It makes me feel American, you know?
It does.
You're blowing some stuff up, maybe shoot a gun. If you see a British person, you can toss them the finger. Like,
oh my God. That's not how I spend my holiday.
Oh, well, I guess you're not doing it right.
Well, I'm not going to apologize because what we did was barbecued some brats and then we barbecued some ribs, had all the fixins with that. It was great. We lit off some fireworks. There was a beautiful sunset that I got some really great pictures of and just like really enjoyed the day with my family. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. The wife and I just hung out around the house and we had a really good time. I made a rack of ribs. And of course, you know that I've been doing a lot of ribs recently because I'm doing a barbecue competition in August.
That's right.
And it's going to be 3 racks of ribs and 2 chickens that need to be done. And so I'm really trying to practice up, and none of my friends seem to mind. We took that rack that I made over to a party last night, and I think it lasted 10 minutes maybe.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited for you in this competition because I think you're going to do phenomenally well.
Well,
I've had your ribs. I've had your chicken on multiple occasions. And I have yet to find anything that beats it.
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out.
Yeah.
And it's all for charity. It's going to be a really fun event, and everybody gets to come and try it and taste it. It's called Barbecue in the Grove. It's in Forest Grove, Oregon. And all of the proceeds are going to go to the local high school wrestling program.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. It's going to be a good time for a good cause.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Well, and you know that I'm starting that new segment, the Barbecue Rescue.
Oh, yeah.
And people can follow along using the hashtag Barbecue Rescue on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, we'll be putting the posts up on Facebook, and they'll be on boostboostbbq.com, where you can find all of our shows and find the media from anything that we've been doing recently. And I'm going to be putting my build up there. And I've got the first grill. I got it off of Craigslist. Somebody was getting ready to send it to the scrapper. And it's one of the older Royal Oak charcoal grills. And I love these because it's got the crank handle on the front. You can move the coal tray up or down.
Nice, yeah.
Getting it closer to the meat or further away. It is in quite a state of disrepair. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures.
Yes.
It's not pretty.
And you guys at home can see the photos on facebook.com/boostboostbbq, or of course the website. But I'm just going to be going through and clean that up, making a few changes, making some modifications. And when she's all said and done, it is going to be back up and going, back to the former glory.
Yeah. Now, can you classify that as a resto mod? I think you can.
You might be able to.
I think that's the
Depends
thing.
on what the mods are, but yeah. Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and coin that right now. This is a resto mod barbecue. Custom job done by our one and only Andy from Boost, Booze, and Barbecue.
Boy, and we got some fantastic ideas from a friend of ours, Larry White.
Oh, yeah.
Friend of the show. Man, he was throwing out some great ideas.
Awesome ideas. That was really cool.
I may have to incorporate a few of those. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Larry, thanks for that.
Yes.
We had some really incredible wines yesterday because it was actually a party at Crystal Wine Guy's house.
Yeah,
and
I know.
That was super fun. And
I'm kind of jealous. I heard about these wines.
It was a really, really good time. And then, of course, I show up here and you've got this amazing wine lined up for me.
Yeah, so this is Eola Hills American Red Table Wine. And it's very fitting for this particular time of year because the label is in red, white, and blue. Kind of a star-spangled tribute there.
I love it.
And it's a really great wine. The description on the bottle is rich, smooth, sumptuous, and loaded with fruit character. Ooh. And boy, is it. I get a lot of black cherry. Yeah.
A lot of black cherry, a lot of blueberries.
I do recommend letting this one breathe, maybe even using a decanter if you happen to have one, because it definitely needs to open up before you just jump in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is very sweet. It is dry on the finish, which helps that out.
Yeah.
Like you're drinking
kind
it.
of combats that a little bit.
Right. You're drinking it and you're thinking, wow, this is really sweet. But then it does kind of cleanse your palate at the end. So that's nice. It makes for a very drinkable wine. And as a matter of fact, I think this would make a fantastic sangria base.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. So you can find Yola Hills on Instagram. They're one of my followers. I follow them. So hit them up on Instagram at Yola Hills and give them some likes and tell them Jojo sent you.
That's awesome.
And speaking of Instagram, I would like to give a shout out to one of my new followers who I'm following back. And this is a gentleman from Moscow, Russia. His name's Andre, and he is at Mr. Pruts Insider. So that's MR_PRUTS_insider. And he's a bartender, but looking at his photos, his videos, reading his captions, I would really prefer to use the term artist. For example, he has a photo of this beautiful purple drink in this beautiful glass. I'm using the word beautiful a lot, but it really is. And listen to this description.
It's Instagram, so it's beautiful.
Instagram. So yeah, so here's what's in this drink. Gin, sake, blue maraschino, and forest vermouth, ash perfume on top. And then he goes on to say, in the modern world, it's not always possible to spend an evening with your family near the campfire. But is there some reason to refuse these beautiful emotions and memories? Now he's a poet.
Wow.
Right? I am loving this guy's Instagram account. So go out and give him a follow as well. And again, tell him that Jojo sent you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love that drink. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So pretty.
Well, Joe, I know you're normally the one to take on the car stuff, but I saw a couple of things that I thought were really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And one of the things that struck me right away, even though I didn't buy one and I'll probably never own one, but I am a huge fan of the Alfa Romeo 4C. Such a neat little car and just an instant classic. In my opinion, the looks, the handling, the way the car is, it looks phenomenal. And I've always wanted one. And I was pretty sad to hear that it's not on the 2019 lineup for Alfa Romeo. But Alfa Romeo, it appears, is redeeming itself because it has just announced the return of the Alfa Romeo 8C.
Oh, yeah.
And the little press release here is just a silhouette, but Alfa is usually pretty good about going pretty close to what their prototypes look like. And this has a fantastic profile. And the press release says carbon fiber chassis, twin turbo mid-engine, electrified front axle, 700 combined horsepower, 0 to 60 in sub 3 seconds. Now, the electrified front axle kind of caught me off guard. You're probably looking at, it's a twin turbo mid-engine vehicle. So I would assume that we're looking at 550 horsepower from the engine in the rear and like 150 out of the electric motors that are on the front wheels.
Yeah, that seems about right.
What I'll be interested in is how much range they say you might be able to get out of just the battery packs. Because, with the Porsche, the range only on battery packs, I think is less than 20 miles.
Right.
It's a very small battery pack.
Right.
It's only meant for the short bursts.
Yes.
Right? So I'm wondering if Alpha is going to go the same way.
It kind of sounds like it.
You thinking so?
Yeah.
Because that's hypercar territory.
Right.
If you're doing 0 to 60 in sub 3 seconds, you're probably looking at a top speed close to 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hypercar. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. And what's funny to me is the carbon fiber chassis. That's not even a big surprise to me anymore. Because I was watching a video of Tiff Needell taking a race-prepped Tesla P100D around the racetrack.
Yep.
And it has flax fiber for the body panels.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing. It's a new type of composite that's coming around. It's not new necessarily, but people are finally starting to pick up on it. It's just as lightweight and just as strong as carbon fiber, but it's transparent.
Yeah, that's really neat.
It's wild. I think we're gonna, if this starts catching on more and more, that flax fiber composite, we could start finally seeing some of those futuristic looking designs where the blinkers are in the fenders and things like that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I'm kind of psyched for that.
Yeah.
We've been seeing it in movies for
Right.
since I was a kid, and now we
The
might finally
future
start
is
seeing it.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I agree. There's not a lot about this press release that surprises me. And I think a lot of this is becoming kind of commonplace nowadays. You know, the electric assist motors, you know, driving the front or the rear wheels. It's just kind of the way people are doing things now. Yeah.
We're starting to kind of embrace it. And I think that now that it's starting to seep into the racing world, now is when we're really going to start to see some advancements. Because whether people realize it or not, race cars are how things advance.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. However, that being said, they've got a long road ahead, because how many laps did Tiff Needell get in that video?
1.5.
One and a half.
I feel like I'm being generous saying that, because he was really taking it easy the first lap.
He was.
And then when he finally started to get into it
Yeah.
on the second lap, it overheated
It
the
was like,
batteries.
nope. Not playing that game.
It's a pretty fascinating thing. Let's put a link up to the Tesla Electric GT
Yeah, we'll
class.
do that.
And I want people to take a look at it, and I want some reactions from it. It's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, it is a race prep Tesla 100D.
It's very impressive.
It's got
setup.
all the flax fiber.
Yeah.
They say that they've shaved 1,100 pounds off of that car using all of the flax fiber composite.
Right.
And, of course, stripping out the interior and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Interestingly,
Which-
though, that Google Pad looking thing in the center console, you need that, man.
You need it.
You can't get rid of it.
Nope. It runs the whole show in there. So, yeah. And that car needs a diet to begin with, because it sounds super impressive that they shaved that much weight off the car. But the car starts out at, was it like 5,000 pounds?
Yeah, 4,900 pounds.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. It's kind of like the 800-pound man that loses 200 pounds.
Exactly.
You're still 600 pounds.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, not to mention, it's the shortest racing series in the world. Not counting Time Attack?
Well, yeah, Time Attack is one warm-up lap.
Right.
And then one
And
flying
then one
lap.
flying lap. And speaking of Time Attack and electric vehicles, up there in Canada, the Model 3 just took first place in its class.
In its class.
Let's be fair, in its class.
What is that? The Canadian Sport Compact Time Attack series? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's great. I mean, I anytime anybody wins their class in any kind of race, they deserve a pat on the back and a good job. But I still don't feel like it's any kind of a huge win for the electric vehicle market, because he was up against a Porsche Boxster and a RX-8.
And it was in the rain.
And just speaking from experience, I have won my class before up against an STI and a BMW, because it rained. And then when I went to take my laps, it dried up.
This is true.
So, I mean, a W is a W, however you want to put that.
We sound like real haters right now.
I
You
know,
that, right?
I know. I don't want to be a hater. I'm sorry. But at the same time, just this experiences that I've had in the racing world, it's like, hey, good job. But again, I don't feel like it's any kind of a huge win for the electric vehicle market.
Basically,
You know?
what you're saying is credit where credit's due,
Yes.
but credit's not due here.
Right. Like it's a credit for that guy in that car on that day.
That's so.
Absolutely. Like he won that
it's so
day.
true.
And he deserves a pat on the back and maybe a little plaque with his name on it. And, you know, that can never be taken away from him. He won.
Right.
But on a much larger scale, I think it's trying to be marketed or touted as some kind of huge win for the electrical vehicle market. And that I'm not biting. I'm not biting off on that.
I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And obviously, we've got a long way to go. The thing about the Tesla racing series, so the batteries are overheating, right? That's why it didn't last more than a lap and a half. It's not that the batteries were depleted.
No.
The batteries had plenty of juice left in them. It's that the batteries were overheating.
Yeah, they were just about to burst into flames.
Right. And the reason why those lithium batteries overheat is because of how much juice is being drawn out of them. You can only draw power out of those battery packs so quickly, and then they start generating heat.
Right.
and a lot of heat. And so I feel like the likely thing to do if I were running the series is I would just start telling people, hey, let's start turning the power down and see where we end up. Like, how far down does the power have to be turned in order for us to get a 30-minute race in?
So if my top speed is cut down to 20 miles an hour, and so is everybody else's, that's a fair race. And maybe I can get 30 minutes out of it.
And that is a very fair point. It's a very fair point.
Just saying.
How far down do you have to turn the power to keep that battery from overheating, but still be able to move this, well, now 4,000 pound vehicle around the track? 4,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And right now it's producing 700 and what did he say? 600 or excuse me, 760 horsepower, something around that.
I think that's about right.
So how low do you have to turn the power in order to get it to not overheat the battery?
Yeah.
You know, if you could turn it down to 600 horsepower, I think it would still make for a good race.
Oh, absolutely. 600 horsepower. Yeah.
In a 4,000 pound vehicle.
Yeah.
If you have to turn it down to 400 horsepower in a 4,000 pound vehicle, that's where you start getting a little, you know, how much do people enjoy watching the Spec Me Auto Racing series? You know,
right.
That's not exactly a spectators racing series.
No.
It's an entry level racing series. And, you know, you're looking at, what is it, like a 14-to-1 or 15-to-1 power to weight ratio. The Tesla P100Ds, if they start getting into like a 10-to-1 power weight ratio, 400 horsepower to 4,000 pounds, they're not going to be the quickest thing out there.
No.
And since there's no sound to them,
right,
there may not be a whole lot of watching going on.
Yeah.
And the spectatorship is money for those racing series. If you don't have the spectatorship, you don't have the racing series.
Right. These are exactly some of the reasons why I tell people who find out that I race autocross, one of the first responses I usually get is, oh, let me know when you're racing. I want to come watch. And my immediate response to that is, no, you don't. It's really boring. Just stay home. If you do come to my events, it's going to be because you're signed up to race.
Right.
And not because you want to watch. It's just not a spectator sport. It's boring.
It's you against the clock. And nobody else cares about that.
Nobody wants to watch that.
Well, I mean, what do we really watch racing for anyways? It's the crashes. And it's not very often that people wreck in autocross.
No?
Well, except for our buddy Dustin.
Yeah.
I feel bad for doing this, but we were at an autocross and he showed up and he's a drift racer. A little backstory for the listeners that don't know. And he started out of the gate, and I don't know what exactly went wrong, but for whatever reason, he turned to the right, and it didn't go right. It went straight, and straight into a curb, and it crushed his body kit front bumper, as the drift kids like to have in the early 2000s. And without even thinking, I just grabbed the radio, because anybody that's been in autocross before knows someone has to stand there with a radio to call cones. And you call out, you know, one cone on whatever vehicle. And so I just grabbed the radio and I said, one curb, white RX-7. And
and that is a quote that will go down in infamy. We all thought it was hilarious.
That's typically how my jokes go. I think they're hilarious, and then everybody else thinks they're offensive.
Pretty much. We have that in common.
That is our common ground. That's actually what got
we
us started.
find each other hilarious.
That's right. That's right. And cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
We're the 3BQ crew. Ooh, maybe that should be a hashtag. The 3BQ crew.
Yeah.
Well, our friends with the Northwest Barbecue Association.
Yeah.
They have a hashtag called Northwest BBQ Crew. And boy, if you go on Instagram and follow that hashtag,
that's a great one.
That is a fantastic one.
Yeah.
I mean, the food that these guys put out is just absolutely incredible. Incredible. I love following them. Our friends over at Ember and Vine, they're part of the Northwest Barbecue Crew, and several of the competitive barbecuers that are in the area. As a matter of fact, the barbecue in the Grove, which we're doing in August, that is being put on by the guys over at the Northwest Barbecue Crew. So make sure you go over there, check that hashtag out. It's a good one to follow and really good people, so go and check them out.
Oh, and before we get too far off track here, there was another thing that I wanted to talk about having to do with electric vehicles today. So let's bring it back around.
I hope that has a positive spin to it.
It does.
We're a little too hatery right now.
I know. And this one I'm not hating on at all. So
I
this
swear this Eola Hills red wine is not Hater-ade. Like it's
it's not.
No.
So this is the all-electric Volkswagen that crushed the Pikes Peak record set by Sebastian Loeb back in 2013.
Yeah.
By 15 seconds.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, and not to... Okay, so hater hat going back on for a second.
Uh-oh.
We need to use the distinction here because for years, Pikes Peak Hill Climb was strictly on dirt.
That's true.
And then for years, it was on dirt and pavement. And then they just kept paving more and more and more, and records would be set. And now it's all paved.
So, well, yeah, and they do specifically mention that this is the record that was set by Sebastian Loeb in the Peugeot 208 T16 back in 2013.
That's right.
So that's the record that this car has beat.
So Rod Mellon is still a man in the dirt.
Absolutely.
His 1994 Toyota Celica, and I use the word Celica loosely. I mean, it's not really, it's tube frame, all-wheel drive.
Celica-esque?
Celica-ish.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Celica-ish, you know.
It's reminiscent of a Celica.
Yeah.
If you squint from 50 feet.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I'm with you. But yeah, he set that record on all dirt.
Yep.
And no one ever bested it.
Nope.
And then it had a little bit of pavement put down. And Nobuhiro, they called him Monster. Tajima, I think. He was in a Suzuki, well, one of those full carbon, huge wing race cars.
Right.
I'm struggling to remember the name, but it's one of the...
Not really reminiscent of anything but a race car.
Yeah. Suzuki Escudo? Something like that.
Something, yeah.
1,200 horsepower, lots and lots of downforce. But that was on a partially paved course.
Right.
So... Anyways, that's just kind of it's a little bit of a thing for me when people say, oh yeah, this new record has been set on Pikes Peak. Well, yeah.
Right. Yeah. You have to be careful.
Pikes
You have to be, when you're talking Pikes Peak, you have to be very careful as to which record you are referencing.
That's right.
Because the track has changed so much over the course of its history.
I'm going to be one of those old guys that is talking about racing like it's World War II, you know?
Right.
Hey,
back in my day.
Young folks don't know. You better learn your history.
We had to race uphill both ways.
In the dirt.
Barefoot.
Yeah, man. But it is an important distinction, I think.
Yeah, it is.
And people need to make that distinction. I would just like to say, for my own mental well-being, if people could just start saying paved Pikes Peak record.
Yes.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah. Or at least like they did in this article, they referenced whose record and the date.
There you go.
So that you have in your mind that, oh, this is the paved Pikes Peak record.
Okay, so now I'm taking my hater hat off.
Okay.
So, Volkswagen electric Pikes Peak hill climb car.
Yeah, pretty insane. 0 to 60 in just 2.25 seconds.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, 479 pound-feet of instantaneous torque. It only weighs 1,100 kilograms.
So like 2250
so
pounds,
like 2250. Pretty darn light.
That's pretty killer.
Yeah.
Because electric vehicles, those motors and batteries are very heavy. So it must not have much of a structure around it. I mean, I shouldn't say structure. It's not going to be a big vehicle, though.
No,
that must be a very
it's very
slight.
Small. It creates a lot of downforce. Apparently, according to VW, more downforce than the weight of the car. So it's right up there with F1 type machinery there. Now, obviously, it's got one huge advantage. It's all electric. Pikes Peak is way up there.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So the altitude is not going to affect this car the way it would an internal combustion engine.
And the way it does all of those other internal combustion engines. Everyone has exactly the same problems.
Right.
You can try to program things.
Yep.
Back in the day, people had manual controls for their carburetors where they would turn fuel up or turn fuel down.
Yeah.
It's just really, when you're going that high up a mountain and you're covering that much vertical distance, it makes a huge impact.
It really does, yeah. And one thing they even kind of calculated for is the altitude, because even though it doesn't have an effect on the electric motors, it is going to have an effect on the downforce. You know, the lack of air density when you're up that high, it's going to reduce your downforce. Well, like I said, this is producing more downforce than the car weighs. So they even calculated for that. I mean, they really did their homework. They did a great job here.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we're going to start seeing more and more of these electric race cars. And it's like I said before, the more electric race cars we see, the more improvements we're going to see in electric passenger vehicles. And if that truly is the direction that we're going to go, we need that, and I think we should make it a focus and a priority to sort this stuff out on the racetrack, because that's where your innovation comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the trickle down.
Yeah, because you have the factory backing, you have corporate money, and that's where differences are made.
Yeah.
Well, good on Volkswagen. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And hey, good on us for getting through this past week.
Yeah.
Or weeks. I mean, we came off of Mecum, and it just never stops.
It just snowballed. You should see the size of this snowball, and it's still rolling down the hill.
It is only picking up steam. Yeah, it's only going to get better from here. Bigger, brighter, better.
Yeah.
So you guys, we're keeping a little short form show today because we got a lot of stuff going on. Jojo was kind enough to host me at her house, and we got to be skedaddling out of here. But before we do that, just a quick reminder, the Teespring store is up. We got some awesome looking t-shirts.
Yeah.
Probably going to be releasing new designs about every 2 weeks. And that's actually where you guys come in. If you've got any designs you've been thinking about, maybe you're into Blip Shift and you've thought of a shirt idea, but then you see that Blip Shift doesn't really care about the little man. Go ahead and send that design over to us. We'll see if we can do something with it.
Heck yeah.
Any sayings you like or anything like that, we love to see them. I'll keep cranking out my own stuff, but we would love to hear back from you guys. And if you got anything that's interesting, we will definitely try to incorporate it into the 3BQ family of shirts and mugs and goods. And, of course, the Facebook, always rocking. The Instagram, Boost, Booze, and Barbecue is where you can find it all. Jojo has some of her own stuff.
Yeah, on Instagram, I am at The Real Joe Francisco. And at Twitter, I am at Joe Frisco.
Make sure you go out there and follow her because she's got some really, really fun stuff. Great photos. Anything automotive related, she is all over. A few things drink related, maybe. A few barbecue things. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, of course, we'll be bringing you all kinds of awesome content. We got the Pirelli World Challenge coming up and the Forest Grove Concours d'Elegance.
Yep.
Parts 4 and 5 of our Distillers series are coming up as well. Just going to be cranking out this stuff. So make sure that you stay tuned and spread the love around. Tell your family and friends about it. Share the pages whenever you get a chance, and we sure appreciate that. And we rely on that. So, once again, Joe?
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.
And you folks at home, thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Boost, Booze, and Barbecue.